There's no going back now. So yeah, thanks for joining us, Adam. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
So so you're the first person I've had on the podcast who, I mean, you are kind of digital marketing because you use digital marketing, don't you? And obviously this will be a nice episode for chocolate lovers and food lovers as well, because you can talk about the brownies, because your company is the Real Chocolate Brownie Company.
Yeah, the homemade brownie company.
Homemade, my apologies. And it was started by your wife. Is that correct?
So it started by my wife end of 2016. So I've had about 5 years or so at it. Just a side hustle like a lot of businesses are. And then I got involved a couple of years ago alongside another business I had at the time, and things moved in opposite directions for that business and the brownie business during pandemic. So we got a bit more serious during the pandemic and sort of turned it into a proper corporated business and tried to grow it and invest in it and so on.
Yeah. I mean, what did you do before you got involved with the brownie company?
So I had a career in the corporate world. So I was an accountant, and so did various finance controller, finance director roles in the corporate world, and left that actually around about the same time that Laura set up the brownie business. Went off and done a bit of general business and finance consulting for a couple of years, and the reason for doing that was that I always wanted to get involved in small businesses and have my own stuff. So I thought that was the neatest way to sort of bridge the gap from coming out of the big corporate world going into small businesses by working with some of them. And I got involved about 4 years ago with a business called Phoenix Managed Services. So we did business supplies and facilities services, a lot of stuff around sort of London blue chips. So we used to look after everything, effectively a sort of outsourced office facilities company for them. So I had some nice clients like Uber, TripAdvisor, Expedia, Revolut, and we're working with those guys. But unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, there wasn't much demand for anything related to office, so our revenue fell off a cliff, and me and the other director decided it was the right time for me to sell my stake in the business and move on. And, we needed to cut costs, so it was just the right thing for both of us at that time.
Yeah, because one of my previous guests, Jim Chetwood, his business changed when the pandemic hit. There was a change of direction. So when the pandemic hit in March 2020, what were your thoughts? Were you thinking you would get through it? It would all work out all right?
I mean, I think for the office, services business, that the writing was on the wall really, really quickly for us. It was actually quite strange because I don't know if you remember, but right at the very start, when it started to come across to the UK, the very first company that sent everybody home, I think it was Chevron, and they were based down in West Ferry Circus in Canary Wharf, and we were actually onboarding the new client that shared a wall with Chevron. So we were actually in the building next door at the same time, setting everything up for them, and literally they were sending everyone home next door. We realized that a lot of the big firms were going to be sending everybody home, and everything that we were setting up and everything we've been running the business on for the last 15-20 years was about to come to an end. So even before Boris had made the announcement, about 10 days or so before that, me and the MD were having conversations about how quickly can we right size the business, how quickly can we get people out, how quickly can we, start shifting to some other revenue streams to try and save the business. That was a really sort of interesting and challenging time, but we knew that we were going to really struggle from that almost from day one. The brownie business was very, very different in that our first thoughts for that were, well, everyone's going to be tight for money because there's a lot of people not going to be working. we were looking at sort of doing a more budget range of our products, because we have something at the minute that is a bit of a budget product and it sells really well. So we were starting to make a couple of plans for that to just sort of launch more of that and effectively turn our business into a model where we were just going to drop a certain amount of budget products every day, rather than take orders in advance for sort of birthday gifts and things like we'd done previously. And we were almost just starting to get the plan going on that, and then orders just overnight started to go through the roof.
Wow.
And yeah, for all of our normal products. And that was just the effect of lockdown. People were suddenly at home, they couldn't get out to the supermarkets, they couldn't see people, so they couldn't deliver presents that they would normally do. Everyone just needed a bit of cheering up generally, so they were looking for treats. And we were just in that sweet spot of having, a fairly easy to use website that people could order on. It was ready built for gifting, so people could send it with gift messages and everything, and we had it available for sort of delivery, next day dispatch. And the orders just started coming through really, really quickly, almost unexpectedly overnight, and never stopped from there. So a few days into that, we thought, actually, we're going to be all right. This business is actually going to be all right, and it probably will help us in the long term, the pandemic. But that's not what we thought initially. We thought we were going to have to completely change what we were doing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that seems to what you said corresponds to, from my experience with food delivery businesses in particular. And it's interesting. It was very hard to predict what would happen. But yeah, that's your story. Looking back on it, it chimes with many other stories that I've come across. So was Laura, what was her thoughts? Did she want to keep it kind of small, as it were, a small business, or was she a bit reserved about taking it onto a next level?
So we'd already sort of agreed about a year before the pandemic hit that I was going to take a couple of days. So I'd actually, the other business I was talking about earlier, I'd actually gone down to 3 days with them. So I'd started doing 2 days on the brownie business, and that was only really just getting stuff prepared. So we were, building new websites and sorting out a few other bits and pieces. But yeah, we'd agreed at that point that we wanted to try and give it a real go. We'd seen enough from what we'd done to think actually it had some legs. So we were keen to try and grow it. I think looking back, I don't think either of us knew what we let ourselves in for. It's definitely been hard work trying to grow a business like that, sort of low value, high volume business. But yeah, she had some ambitions about growing it as well, and we both did a sort of year or so before the pandemic. So that just kind of gave us a little bit of a unforeseen boost, really.
Mm. Have you tried, or did you try selling products on Amazon and eBay?
So we sell on Amazon, and that's only been quite a recent thing. So we've been on there now for about 7 or 8 months. I think, yeah, with hindsight, there was a few people that got there first on Amazon that stole a head start, and I think that's how it works on Amazon. If you pile up the reviews quite quickly, it's hard for people to displace you. So we're behind a little bit on some of those, but honestly, there's no way we could have handled anything else during the pandemic, because it hit us so quickly. And it was like, it wasn't a sort of doubling of orders for us on the website. It was like 10x in the space of a month. So we went from Laura handling everything on her own to probably by 2 months after Boris's announcement, we had about 3 or 4 people working in the house every day. So we had socially distanced kitchen with one baker at one end, Laura at the other end, someone doing the wrapping over the other side of the house, and then a big dining room table laid out with someone packing all the boxes, and sort of me upstairs in the office. So and we couldn't even keep up then. Our lead time from being next day, at one point I think we had a 10-11 day lead time on all orders, because we just couldn't keep up, even working late nights and weekends. It was just relentless. So there just was no opportunity at all for us to have done anything like Amazon at that point, but clearly a few others did get there.
Yeah. And what did you step up the promotion when the pandemic hit? Was it the same and it was just more effective?
Yeah, nothing at all different in the early days, because we've been a year before, we've been trying to grow the business. 6 months before the pandemic hit was about when we launched our new website. So we had a nice new shiny website which had all been SEO optimized and everything, but there was just no real traffic. It was building, but it was quite slowly. Suddenly pandemic hit, you had huge numbers of people online searching for brownies and gifts and things. It just flooded so much more search traffic for that kind of thing, and that was just by law of averages. So many of them were going to land on our website. I like to think they had quite a good experience, and then they started coming back and recommending. So it just kind of grew organically, but it was quite fortunate timing that we'd had a new website built 6 months beforehand. And when we finally got a chance to sort of catch breath about 2 months into it, we just did a couple of search for key terms, and we were on the first page of Google, which we'd been never anywhere close to that before. We were sort of down in the 7, 8, 9 pages for most of the key terms. So it all happened really quickly, but it was all organic. And then sort of once the first lockdown started ending, business started to quieten down. So that's when we engaged a digital marketing agency and got them helping us to do a load of new stuff. So that's when we got into Facebook ads and Google AdWords and all of that stuff to try and sort of give it another push.
How did you find that?
Initially, really good, because again, second lockdown came sort of November time that year, and traffic just was unbelievable coming to the website. It was even more than the first time, actually.
Wow.
You know, about twofold. And a lot of that was being driven by the Facebook ads and everything. Just getting amazing returns initially. And then it, again, when lockdowns ended, it quietened down. I think a lot of businesses doing similar stuff to us had realized the opportunity, and you could see there was a lot of companies that were throwing a lot of money at the Facebook ads and everything. And I think as soon as the lockdowns ended, traffic started to disappear. It just became uncompetitive because everyone was still throwing a lot of money at it, and there just wasn't the volume of people online anymore to make it work for everybody.
Yeah. What would you say? Have you learned anything from that you can apply to like the future with marketing?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson would have been to stay closer to it and not got complacent, because I think in the early days we were getting probably 10 to 1 return on Facebook, which was just, you know, unheard of for us. Wow, yeah. And I think we almost sort of sat back and thought, well, this is fantastic, like this is brilliant, like everything's going right. We didn't look too closely at what was going on. It's just all fantastic. But actually, once things quietened down and we started to look, we realized that there were a few things that weren't quite right, and we've missed out on a few things. And actually, if we'd have just been closer to it, even though it was going well, if we'd have just been critical and looked at it at the time, it could have been even better. And also then when it quietened down, we would have been in a better place than we were, because a lot of the traffic just went away, and sort of all of those sales and great returns just weren't there anymore. But we were kind of too late to pick up on some of the things that we could have picked up if we were watching it closer when it was going so well. Sure.
I mean, which platforms like currently do you use for digital marketing?
So we've just actually stopped with both Google AdWords and Facebook. And the reason was that we just couldn't seem to get the returns anymore. And I know a lot of people have been talking about since the iPhone and sort of Apple software updates and not allowing quite so much tracking on Facebook, they've been much harder. So I don't know if that's the reason, or I just don't know whether there's just not enough traffic there and everything's too competitive, but we just weren't seeing the returns anymore. So we decided to pause it for a few months and kind of see what impact it has. So we're not actually doing a great deal at the minute. We're continuing to do all of our SEO work, you know, trying to keep the websites fresh. We always blog once a month, just to keep the website fresh in Google searches, but we're not doing any real paid adverts at the minute. I'm still looking for the right opportunities. I was just speaking to someone recently about TikTok, and that sounds encouraging. But yeah, we're not doing anything too much at the moment, digital marketing. We do spend a fair amount on Amazon because that's still growing quite quickly for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you do email marketing?
Yes, we do actually. Yeah, so we only do one a month. So one newsletter, which generally contains a little sort of bit of info about what's going on, monthly specials and an offer. But we did try 2 a month for a while, but we just thought that was too much for, you know, what we had to offer. So we went back to 1, and that feels like about the right balance at the moment. Yeah,
and also when I first met you, it was through networking. Do you still do a lot of not face-to-face, but Zoom networking?
Yeah, I still do. I've got 3 or 4 groups now that I go to at least once a month, and they're still, you know, all great for getting the name out there, meeting new people. I think what I've tried to do is sort of spread myself out a little bit more at those networking groups. So you just kind of, I don't think you necessarily need to be there every single week. I think as long as you're keeping the relationships up, then I think you can sort of do once a month or once every 2 weeks works quite well. I do prefer the face-to-face stuff. I just feel like you make the connections a bit better and a bit deeper. And I struggle a bit over Zoom. So I'm trying to get more and more face-to-face ones, but networking generally I think still works fantastic in both directions. You find potential customers, but you also found a huge number of potential suppliers, and just also people you just, you know, I met with somebody the other day who's in the food business as well, and they were just a great person to sort of share thoughts with and ideas and challenges, just because they were in the same industry and experiences the same things we were. And networking is great for finding those type of people. Sure.
Do you find, I mean, do you do corporate gifts? Is that a major part of your business in terms of sales?
Yeah, it's a part of it. It's not the biggest, so it's probably become sort of number 5. So we've kind of got 5 channels really. We've got our website, we've got Amazon, we've got events, we've got wholesale, and then we've got the corporate gifting. And that's probably, well, that is the smallest revenue stream at the minute. We were really keen on that 2 years ago during the pandemic, because we had a few sort of really big orders coming quite quickly, which generally was someone that had bought something personally, enjoyed the experience, and then wanted to send out to their teams. And when they come in, they're lovely, because it's nice to deal with one person that's covering maybe sort of 100 orders. Because the worst thing about e-commerce is all of the individual delivery issues you have to deal with. You just can't avoid. It's just a pain in the neck. You can lose hours in a day if you've got 3 or 4 deliveries have gone wrong. But the corporate business is great when they come in, but we've just found that it's not been as consistent as we thought it might be. We have probably 7 to 10 clients that use us monthly for sending out regular gifts. But other than that, it just tends to be really lumpy business. So we just get a call out of the blue and say, we'd like to send out 80 boxes this week, which is absolutely lovely, but it's difficult to sort of predict it and get it coming in regular. And we get loads of it at Christmas, which is fantastic. We just haven't been able to get enough of it coming up throughout the year to sort of make it worth us spending loads of time chasing it down. We did do a reasonable amount on LinkedIn and Google AdWords around corporate gifts in the height of the pandemic, but we just found it quite hard to sort of get too much coming back from us aside from the sort of Christmas season.
Yes. And what are your plans like going forward with the business? Is it can you expand it? Can you room for expansion?
Yeah, it's growing quite quickly at the moment. So we've just we've got kind of 5 of us now in the unit that sort of look after the day-to-day. So I guess I'm in the office, and then we've got 4 out in the sort of kitchen area looking after the baking and the packing and everything. And we'll add 1 more, and we've just sort of brought on 5 people to help us with the event. So that will be our biggest thing for this year. So we do events just from the small sort of Hampshire farmers markets every week, through to some of the like bigger pub in the park, the county shows, the Christmas fairs, the food festivals. We're doing quite a lot of gin and rum festivals this year. So that's the biggest part. That's the biggest growth opportunity for our business, because not only does it help us make quite good sales and meet customers on the day, but it potentially gives us online customers of the future. And we've met quite a few people there that they run a cafe, or their daughter runs a cafe or something, that we've led to getting introductions from. So that's the biggest thing that we'll be chasing this year, just trying to get our presence out to as many events as possible, and using the team to do that. But the other part that we're going to push a lot harder and is starting to grow is the wholesale side of it. So people buying for cafes, coffee shops, restaurants, farm shops, and there's a huge opportunity in doing that for us. I think we can, we bridge a nice gap on that. So we'll push that a lot harder.
Yeah. Would you provide brownies for ice cream?
Yeah. Our second ever customer actually was a sort of an ice cream parlour in Basingstoke. Our second ever wholesale customer. And yeah, it's been a thing we've looked at a couple of times actually. We had someone that was using them in cheesecakes, this sort of a bit of crumble on the top and chunks within the cheesecakes, which is, you know, not a nice option. So yeah, there's a lot of potential opportunities I think for it, and a lot of stuff we don't expect that just comes up. People say, "Oh, have you thought about this? Could we work with you on that?" And there's loads of things that are possible. Yeah.
That's, I just thought, because I know someone who has just opened a parlour, so I thought, oh, okay. So I'll see if they need any brownies for their ice cream.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it was, we started noticing brownies just sort of everywhere now. We was watching The Apprentice this week, and I think pretty much every time they went to, like, they were doing a Silverstone event, and I think there were brownies everywhere you look. They were, one of the teams was offering it up as part of their sort of catering offering, and then there was someone else was selling it outside. And it's just like, yeah, actually all these things you'd never even thought of. Like we had a big order from Fort Park last year, because around Fright Night, the sort of Halloween season, and they were like took 11,000 brownies in a week, which and we were like, it never even was on our radar that was an option, but they were selling them out of the chalets and things down there. And when you start seeing that, you think, yeah, well, I guess those things are there. You know, there are theme parks, football stadiums, racetracks, everywhere. There's people need to eat, and they need their sweet treats and things. So there's just, options everywhere, I think.
Yeah. Okay, my serious question now then. Do you like chocolate?
I do. I'm more of a savoury man, but
yeah.
I do like chocolate, yeah.
And what is your favourite food?
Favourite food? Crisps and pizza are probably my favourite too.
Wow. How do you stay so trim then? Do you exercise a lot?
Normal answer is yeah, it's all about balance. So that's our stock answer to people on the brownie. So yeah, I used to do quite a lot of training. I mean, I still go to the gym every morning, but used
there you go. Yeah.
do some competitive stuff and that. And yeah, so I still love the fitness side of things. That will always be part of me. So I love doing that. So I mean, I think these days I really do it so I can eat, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't compete or anything anymore. So it's all about train so I can eat what I want to eat at the weekends and things.
Oh, sounds good. Sounds good. What is your favorite music?
Yeah, I've got really sort of varied. So when I was growing up, I used to love listening to garage and drum and bass. More recent, well, even then, used to love things like Oasis. So these days, I listen to anything from Oasis. Love listening to some of the old stuff from the Beatles, Elton John. Really strange mix of my playlist is just the most random.
That's on one. That's one playlist.
Yeah,
on Spotify.
Yeah. Yes, it's like it's been pulled together by different people.
Yeah, no, sounds good. What is your favorite book?
Favorite book. Yeah, there's a couple I've listened to that I would sort of say life changing. Probably Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
My all-time favorite book. Probably the most life-changing one I've ever read.
Wow. Yeah. And do you have like a favorite quote from that book?
No, I do love a quote. No, I haven't got any in mind from that book.
Or quotes, a general quote.
Yeah. One that's always stuck with me is that good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment. I've always liked that one. Don't even know who said it actually, but it's always been one that stuck with me.
Yeah. That's a good one, definitely. And what would you say was your biggest achievement?
Biggest achievement. Yeah, I'm quite proud of my my career in finance. So I got a couple of awards when I was studying for my chartered accountancy. So I got the highest mark worldwide twice. So that was top of 17,000 per exam. So that was quite a good accolade. I completely messed up my schooling. Didn't do anything academically at school. Could have done. So it was nice to once I got my head down and wanted to do something, it was nice to prove that I could do stuff academically and kind of make my parents proud for a bit, that I'd actually not wasted everything by throwing away my schooling years. And then I made a finance director in my late 20s in the corporate world, which was a really nice achievement. I was really proud of that when I did that, and being able to start this business really and move it on over the last few years, I'm quite proud of that as well. And and on a personal side, obviously very proud of my two kids, 18 and 15-year-old. Got two boys.
Wow.
They're both good kids and have done good stuff in their schooling and sporting life. So very proud of that, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So it should be. You've been a great interview, Adam. I appreciate your time. And
thanks for having me.
And if someone wants to get hold of you, what is the best way of doing it? Is it through LinkedIn, the website?
Yeah, either of those is probably best. So website's really easy. So homemadebrownie.co.uk. I'm still the main contact on most of those things. So email and phone number is on there. And on LinkedIn, you'll find me there. It won't be too hard to find. There's not too many people with a picture of a chocolate bar next to their name. So you'll be able to track me down on there easily enough.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Cheers, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Right. End of interview. So we're still recording, but this bit gets taken off unless something really interesting happens.
Yeah.
Hopefully you enjoyed that. Was it?
Yeah, no, I did actually. It's sort of quite nerve-wracking. I'm not the best at speaking at the best of times, but I listen to podcasts all the time. I love listening to them, and I'd always thought, it'd be good fun to go on and do one at some point. And I've got a couple of mates that ran a couple for a while, a sort of fitness one. They did some sort of good interviews and everything on there. So yeah, no, so it's been good fun. Hopefully we'll be able to do some more in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it seems to be doing well. Seems to be getting a good response, the podcast. I mean, it's new for me as well. I'm like thrown in at the deep end.
Yeah.
I thought, it was an idea. Then all of a sudden, people were asking to come on the podcast. I thought I better do something.
Yeah.
And also, we've got still quite a few guests lined up as well. Got some interesting ones. Got a guy who's an OBE. He's coming up soon. Another guy who is a Google Ads guru in April. He's in America at the moment, but he's agreed to come on the podcast. And also an American guy in Colorado who is, I would say, was definitely in the top 5 people in Facebook ads in terms of of gurus. Facebook ads. A guy called John Loomer.
Right.
And he's, I think, end of March. He's coming on.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's going to be nerve-wracking for me.
Yeah.
Interviewing some of those guys.
Yeah. Have you ever been the interviewee on this podcast at all?
No. Yeah, I probably should do one where I'm being interviewed, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you should do. Yeah. I think people will be interested in that.
Yeah. The only thing I've done is I've converted some previous presentations into podcasts. So okay. The audio track, I've taken the audio track and converted them into podcasts. The first few were just not interviews; they were just recordings from previous they were like presentations to networking groups, or like a 5-minute monologue of me just talking about something. But yeah. I mean, I was due to be on Gareth Robertson's podcast, but something he had to cancel that. Right. Maybe I should ask him for an interview, because then I could be on someone else's show then.
Yeah, because I saw you had Colton on yours as well. He'd probably be quite a good interviewer as well, wouldn't he? Because he does a lot of that.
He does a lot of interviews himself. Yeah. And there was actually Gareth Robertson is also due to be on the podcast as well at some point. I got him down. Yeah. So there's still quite a few to go.
Yeah.
Keep on doing.
TBN and everything. I mean, it's good ground, isn't it, for finding people for that? I'm sure. There's a lady I met actually recently. She might be quite good for it. You probably not just yet, because if you've had me and you've had James, you probably don't want too many more foodies on there for a while. But she has got her own sort of food company as well. It's called Balsa Balls, so it's like energy balls.
Oh yeah.
But she's just a really interesting lady. She's originally from Australia. She built the brand over here, then moved over to the UK and sort of started from scratch again. But just really nice lady, really interesting. I think she'd potentially be good for any sort of content.
Yeah. What was her name again?
Her name is Suki, so SUKI. Lewis.
I'll have to look
I met her at BNI. Yeah.
She must. But she's been to TBN, has she?
No, she hasn't. She's. I just met her through BNI, and she doesn't do any networking actually. She's only just started BNI. That's her first and only one at the moment.
Yeah.
But I just had a follow-up one-to-one with her, and she's the lady I referred to actually during the interview about somebody in the food space that I'd spoken to and had a good chat with. And she just nice, interesting lady. I think she'd make good content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, there's so many interesting people in these networking events. You know,
yeah,
they're people who are, you know, out of the ordinary because they're running their own businesses, and they've always got, like yourself, got an interesting story to tell.
Mm.
You know, especially with the pandemic as well, that adds a different dimension to it. You know.
Yeah. No, I think like Gareth, I've spoke to a couple of times. I need to speak to him soon. Actually, well, I've just asked Laura to give him a call today. Actually, because we need to get some work done with him on the design side of things. But yeah, he's just good value, isn't he? He's just a funny, charismatic guy. He just sort of makes anything entertaining. I don't know him very well, but just everything I've seen of him, I thought, he gets it, and he's great value.
Yeah, that's lovely guy. That is quite charismatic. One of those charismatic people.
Yeah.
We should also chat about Facebook ads as well at some point. So I know you've stopped doing them, but I think I was going to look at just to look at what maybe a business manager, just have a look how it was set up. Just to see if there was anything there which could have been tweaked, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have a look at it. Not necessarily for you to do anything on it, but if there's anything there, I think, there might be something that's not, tracking might be out or something like that. Then I can always have a look at that.
Yeah, no, I can send you. Is that something I could just sort of give you a password to and you could get into?
Best way of doing it is, do you know how to add an admin or to the business manager?
I know very, very little. I could probably is it a little bit tricky because I've got, I guess, my existing marketing agency control, like I've got the passwords. But whenever I want them to do something, I say to them, just go in there and do it. So I'd probably have to ask them, which is a little bit tricky.
A bit awkward.
But it could be done.
Yeah, it depends. It depends if you're an admin. If you're an admin on the business manager, then you should be able to do what you want on there. Depends if they've got they'll have admin access too. Yeah. What I'll do, I'll send you a video of how it's done, and if you can't do it, then it means you have you just can't do it, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've got all the admin right, so I'm sure I'll be able to do it. I just won't know how to do it. So someone should be able to do it, get it across.
Yeah, but because I can send you. I'll send you is what's called a loom, which is like a video. I can send you a loom of how it's done, and then it's relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
And have a look. And TikTok ads, that's an interesting one. I don't do TikTok ads myself. I've not done them, but with brownies, you could be onto something there, I suppose, with TikTok.
Yeah, the reason I was intrigued about it, so I've been interested in it for about a year, just because, I've got 2 teenage sons, and they're forever sort of telling me, TikTok's the place to be now. And I think it's a little bit like our conversation about Amazon. It's almost like there's such an advantage for being the first at something. Obviously, these days, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, everybody knows about them. So you're never going to be the first at doing anything on there. You're just going to be a me too. Whereas, TikTok, you're not going to be early, but you could still be in the sort of, you're probably still getting in before the masses.
Have you tried any organic posts on TikTok?
Laura's done a couple. We're not, I don't think we'd actually be looking at paid stuff on TikTok initially.
That's what I thought. It's worth trying the organic first, isn't it? Because the organic reach on TikTok is a lot more than it is on Facebook and Instagram. If you get especially if you get a video which goes viral, you can get up to hundreds of thousands of views. of a video?
Yeah, the reason that it kind of came up again, because we were trying to get I can't remember actually, when I spoke to you last time, we were recruiting for a Kickstart digital marketer, and it never ended up happening. We ended up using that Kickstart role and taking on an extra baker. So we actually haven't got that person, but part of the reason we wanted them was to try and launch us on TikTok. But because we didn't find anyone, we just kind of gave up on the idea. But then we met this guy at a networking group, and he's only quite young, sort of 23, so it kind of fits the profile quite nicely for TikTok. And he's got a couple of businesses that he's got to over sort of well over 100,000 views on their best video, by doing some quite cool stuff. And both Laura and I that he's just a bit quirky and a bit different. So we spoke to him about it, and it got us quite excited, because he was like, yeah, we can do a bit of this, I know we can send stuff off and get some influencers to do it. He said they won't all take the bait, but some of them will. You only need one good post and it can go. And he just said the reason he's focused on TikTok is just because the masses aren't there yet, so it's so much easier to sort of grab the space. And he said with brownie companies, he said there'll be 15 or 20 on there, but there'll be 1,000 on Instagram and Facebook. So he said if you get in now, you've got a chance of sort of making a bit of a name and getting yourself some big viewing numbers.
Yeah, and also, I mean, saying that on Facebook and Instagram, you've got Reels, which are a bit like TikTok. So they're trying to get into the space. So that might be worth trying as well. The Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels, if you're not doing them already.
Yeah.
Because organically.
Yeah. Yeah, Laura does a few of them. They seem to be quite good actually, because I know that we had a couple in the summer that got like quite a few thousand views, which is a lot more than our best posts on Instagram. Probably we get a couple of hundred likes. We've never had more than that. So if you get a lot of views on some of those reels, that's quite good sort of exposure. And it is quite easy with something like brownies, because people just seem to like seeing the process, because she just literally puts a second of the starting process and shows it all the way through to a finished product, and people quite like that. So I think if you could replicate that on TikTok, if you've got the right person guiding you with some sort of cool music and a bit of stuff going on, then it could work quite. Yeah, I could see how it could potentially work on there.
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend who did a video on TikTok. I think he got 1 million views.
Wow.
And he was doing like guerrilla marketing. He found like garages who, we have the signs outside and it says, petrol here or something like that, or sandwiches. He'd go to their A boards and kind of jazz them up and redo them. He'd jump out of his car with his hoodie on and kind of just redo it and make it better. And he got like tons of views for that. Yeah. So that was also quite creative as well. It's very bit different.
Yeah. I mean that's. I'm just crap at all of this stuff. I haven't really got a creative bone in my body. I'm introverted guy. And I just very quiet by nature. So I just struggle with all of that stuff. It's my kind of worst fear of sort of doing any of that stuff. So I just admire anyone that can do it. And you see some of the stuff, and I completely understand why people get excited by it, because I look at that and I'm like, that's just funny, or it's cool, or it's a bit different. I could see why people watch that. It's just a million miles from kind of what I'm comfortable or good at. And it's I'm
trying to get this guy onto the podcast. So I'll particularly try and get him talking about TikTok as he's had success at it. Actually, that's made me think. Actually, that's one thing I haven't really covered on his podcast is TikTok, and actually he's got quite a good pedigree with TikTok. Yeah. So, yeah. I've got another guy also who runs a pizza company in London. He started it he bought the company just before the pandemic. He bought I think he bought basically it was a mobile pizza van, essentially.
Yeah.
And everyone thought he was mad because he bought a pizza company. I think he actually bought it when the pandemic had already started.
Right.
And it was like, well, you're not going to be able to sell any pizzas to anyone because, obviously no one's going out. And he turned over nearly £1 million within the first year by delivering pizzas. It's called Pizza Post. If you check it out on Instagram, Pizza Post, or Google them. But there's some synergy to what you do, though. So maybe you can look at what they do as well. I mean, the guy is quite a young guy. I mean, I think he's only about 20 something who's running it.
Right.
But you check out Pizza Post.
Okay.
Yeah. A guy called Charlie Mia. I just need to get him on the program as well, saying that, because I do have his contact details.
Yeah. So what do they do then? They just have got a unit and they make it and have got
they do like events,
right.
like weddings, special events. They have the pizza van turns up and they do the pizzas there,
right?
And pizza deliveries. They've expanded it into obviously more than a van now, but yeah. And it was it's done really well. It's only about 20 something, but
yeah,
he's got the brain the size of Saturn.
Yeah,
Business brain the size of Saturn.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I think if you get off to a good start in business at that age, I think you would expect to kind of just go on and have real success, as long as you don't let it go to your head. I think, if you've managed to create a business, I think once you've done it once, I think you generally sort of, do it multiple times. And I think if he's done the first one so early, you'd think he'll be onto a winner throughout his life.
Yeah. Yes, it's I say it just shows you can do it. It's amazing what you can do. Pizza business. In the pandemic, you can still make it turn into a successful business.
Yeah.
Well, like you did as well, of course. Like you did, of course. Yeah.
I mean, it's often the simple things, and that's the one fear I had about doing a brownie business was that it was too simple. But I've started to embrace that now, because like speaking to certain people, they're like, well, yeah, but pretty much, got a huge percentage of the population know what a brownie is and will eat one. So if they see you at an event, they're highly likely to have a conversation and want to buy. Kind of all you've really got to do is make sure your brownies are better than everybody else's out there. Whereas, like the lady I was speaking to who makes the energy balls, half the people that see her are not going to know what it is that she's doing. Once they figure that out, she's got to convince them that actually it's a good idea and that they actually want or need what she's got. And then she's got to prove that they taste the best compared to everybody else out there. She's just got so many more hurdles to overcome than us. And I kind of get that's almost the same with pizzas. Everyone knows what they are, and a huge percentage of the population love them. So if you're making good ones, you're going to sell them. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, my friend, I better leave you to it for your rest of your day. So you can tick that off your list. Tick that off your list. Right. Podcast done.
And, I'll speak to you again about the Facebook ads and stuff. And
And also, have you ever tried to obviously combining Facebook ads with Amazon, like sending traffic to Amazon with Facebook? Was that tried?
No, I haven't actually tried that. No.
Because I know that's a strategy that has been used by some Amazon sellers. But I'll try and get more information about it, give a bit more detail.
Yeah, I know Amazon absolutely loves external traffic being pushed to Amazon for other means, so it really helps your ranking if you're doing any of that. So we were told about just like sticking some Amazon links onto your Instagram profile and things. And he said Amazon absolutely love that. They'll boost you for doing things like that. So yeah, that could be another interesting goal.
Yeah, because there's some software as well which can make it a bit easier as well in terms of tracking and so forth.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, yeah, I'll send. I'll look at it. Yeah, send me the details, and we'll see if we can see if there's anything I can do. Basically, might not be able to, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it's good to keep speaking. I mean, all of these things, I need to invest more money in all of these things. So it's only a matter of time before at some point I'll be back at Facebook. So it's not for now, but not forever. So it's just good to keep these conversations going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much for that, Mike. It was good fun. Hope it wasn't too bad. And
you were great. You were great.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you. All right. I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, speak soon. Cheers, Adam.